Okay, so I'm going to start now. Hello everyone, welcome to the Virtual Worlds Education Roundtable. We meet regularly on Thursdays at 12 noon and discussions last an hour. We're a forum to educate and inform the community about issues that are important and relevant to education in virtual worlds, and we've been going for 10 years now. It's a public meeting, so we will be keeping a transcript, and we publish them on our website at wwer.info. So I'll just put in a little bit more information about the Virtual Worlds Education Roundtable as an advert for those of you, and I see some familiar faces, it's nice to see, and some people who don't usually attend. So we do also have social media as indicated there, and today's session is a joint session with the Virtual Worlds Mooc, and so welcome to the Virtual World Mooc learners and Virtual World Mooc educators. Hi again. So today we're having a panel, and it will be mostly in voice, but one of our panelists has a speakeasy, one's going to type really fast, and one has given me a note card, and I'll transcribe anything that hopefully the key, but apologies because when I can type quite fast, but I do make quite a lot of mistakes when I type. So we always start VWER with an invitation to introduce yourselves in text chat, all type at once, so we have an idea of who you are, but obviously you're not obliged to say where you're based or what your name is in the physical world unless you're very comfortable with doing that. But do say anything in text chat you'd like to introduce yourselves. I'm going to be chairing the session today, so you can do that now while I'm continuing talking. So I'll just explain while you're doing that I'm the chair of the session. My name's Sheila Webber. I'll put my information in chat in a moment. I'm Sheila Webber, and I'm a faculty member in the Information School at the University of Sheffield in the UK. My key areas are information literacy and information behaviour for teaching and research. I'm chairing the session, and I'm also co-lead of VWER with Callie here. I'm going to have 3 questions, and I'm going to pose the questions one at a time to the panellists. Each panellist will answer the same question, and then when they've all answered, we'll pause briefly to pick up the questions. So I'll just wait a little bit longer for
Sheila, do you want us to type in, or are you going to kind of introduce us?
Actually, perhaps if you type in as you normally would, rather than me wasting time saying it, then that's probably just as good. So I'm going to start with Heike, and I'm going to start with the first question that I posed to them, and then I'm going to ask Callie and then Marley. What have you done in a virtual world that you are happiest with? That's the first question. Over to Heike.
Oh dear, has anybody heard me at all? Nice one.
No, and I didn't want to. I thought
what I said. The next time I will voice.
Everything. We read everything that you said.
yes,
Lovely.
we were really
It was a
focusing on what you were writing.
You probably would have got distracted by what I was chatting. But the next one, the next question I'll answer in voice as well. Cheers.
You're sitting in someone's head next.
So, is that you finished, Heike? Shall we?
Yes,
moving on.
that's what I.
So I'll now
Thank
move on to Callie, and I think you're typing in your own text, aren't you?
I'd like to pretend that I am, but I'm actually copying and pasting it. Otherwise, you're thinking I'm an amazing typer. So I've actually just pasted this in, obviously. So I was really happiest with the project I did, where I recruited some local volunteers in Scotland who'd never used Second Life before, And I basically took their health history and then took out elements that would give away what the diagnosis was. They then played patients and allowed my students to come into Second Life and build on their health kind of health history skills, and then went on and did a kind of problem-based learning scenario. However, I really found doing my PhD research the most interesting and enjoyable. The real honesty and the generosity of the participants was fantastic. I mean, I really enjoyed creating and using really innovative methods for data collection. Not many that I actually knew what I was doing at the start, but kind of got to grips with as I went along. And obviously beyond that, meeting fantastic and interesting people. And that's been really important to me, that community. That's me.
Thank you very much, Kelly. So I'll move on now to Marley. With Marley, I will be typing in some text that she's given me already.
Well, first I want to say thanks for coming, and I gave you my website up above, so if you want to see more of the stuff I do, look there. But basically, I don't do anything in Second Life that doesn't make me happy. So that's my guideline for what I do. But I think what's unique is that I have developed a method of using the available building and other technology in Second Life called symbolic modeling, or SimMods for short. And I've created a working collaborative team to produce a series of short films showing how it can be applied to educational, creative, and personal development goals. And I'm looking forward to using these films as training tools and material for discussions about creative process, which is my main passion. I'll be inviting learners to have a variety of experiences based on the films. I really enjoy making this tool available to those who like to play with metaphor and symbols to extract meaning. And I've developed different programs using this approach, and that has been the most fun for me here. I've also really enjoyed setting up my gallery to house my art, and a workshop space with the creations of other people, and inviting people to play with the images for greater self-understanding. I love that kind of exploration and combining arts and psychology and education, and I continue to derive great satisfaction. Done.
And now we're missing your voice, Sheila.
Okay, so I was just saying there that if I'll just have a quick look back through the chat, but I don't think there were specific questions to the speakers. But as I said, if anyone would like to kind of type in what made them happiest in Second Life, then what they're happiest with having done, then do that, just while we're prepping up the second question. Okay, so I think I'll move on to the second question. People do keep typing in your experiences as well. So the second question, I will try and type and talk at the same time. The second question I had for our panellists.
There's a wee question for Gan. We'll leave it to later.
Yes, perhaps if we now deal with that after the second question. It might fit in quite well anyway. So again, I'll hand over to Heike, and I now know that you definitely do intend to speak, so I'll tell you if you aren't. I didn't want to put you off in case perhaps you told me you weren't speaking and I'd just forgotten about it. So,
okay, and perhaps if I can just repeat what I said at the beginning, that I'm really, really privileged to be here among such amazing people. Oh my word. Thank you, Maggie. Okay, about what we do, the features of Virtual Worlds that we love using and we've used and particularly suited to what we want. Obviously, that is in the case of language learning and teaching, to use voice, like we're doing here. Voice and text chat at the same time is really brilliant. What we've done in Virtual Worlds also is we created a lot of holodecks. We like building scripting. It was also a process. I mean, we've done it for many years. My partner Randall Sattler, aka Randall Renoir in Second Life, from the University of Illinois, he created some 100 holodecks on Edunation for teachers to role play. And we also enjoy that there are libraries, bus stops, forest seatings, boutique Renoirs, seasonal scenes such as winter scenes, and obviously these holodecks are available for language educators if they want to join and bring their students to Edunation. In our VWER Open Sim, we created a castle. There's medieval quest. There's a lot of gameplay because obviously VWER is all about how to use games in a virtual environment. And then there's a machinima island in VWER. That's an open sim, and there are scenes to create machinima because we spend tons of time creating machinima for language teaching and learning. This is an absolute wonderful tool. Yeah, role-playing, crazy hotel reception, etc. That is an open sim, exactly. In Minecraft, currently the kids build like crazy. There's cities, restaurant pyramids, crashed spaceships in the mountains, parkours, Melody Park, many others. And if people think Minecraft is ugly, well, no, I'll tell that in a minute. Minecraft, does anybody of you have experience with Minecraft? It's Minecraft, there's survival mode, it's called. Yeah, and you get, in the beginning, you get an empty inventory. Yeah, and you have to mine, you have to chop wood, you have to create tools to even get going and to defend yourself. It is a wonderful game. It is absolutely brilliant. In the beginning, we felt like, oh, these horrible graphics and all this, yeah. It was hard to get into it after having spent 10 years plus in Second Life. But we now have our really big fun. Then after a while you have to use animals, or do you have to find animals that produce stuff that help you again to develop your inventory. That is in survival mode. There's also what's known as creative mode, where you get an inventory full of stuff and you start building. And the few little pilots that we've done with the children are just so amazing. And both is a lot of fun. People are saying that we're put off by the graphics. Oh, I learned now to install a texture pack, which turns these large pixels into nice graphics. And they look like normal stuff, like things that we used in Second Life. And the kids are just awesome, what they've developed. Apparently, Minecraft is now 900 million times larger than planet Earth in relation to the size of the avatar. 900 million times larger. There is 100 million children from usually age 8 to 12 in there now. Minecraft I haven't put that in a speakeasy yet, but we're just amazed about Minecraft. That's it from my side.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Heike. I'll move on to Callie. If you could talk about the features that you find particularly features of Virtual World that you're using that are particularly suited to what you want to do.
So for me, I mean, I just think the whole immersive idea, I know that we are not seeing this mainly in first person, but I think the idea of the avatar and the virtual self is really important. I think it definitely does promote embodiment and gives you that much deeper sense of presence and social presence. And I think that kind of auditory and visual environment is so much more engaging than flat text. It also allows really good simulation if you want to create health simulations or even interactive environments where people can feel that they are actually almost juggling through information than just reading it. And obviously the feeling of being with other people. I think when people get together like this and when these communities and groups form, we get a much more collaborative approach to everything. I think there's a lot of co-created knowledge and distributed knowledge through these kind of asset-based networks, where really if you get into a group that is really positive and collaborative and often full of intergenerational people who have so much resources to share, then I think that kind of collective intelligence and that distributed co-created knowledge is so powerful. Now obviously that can spread negative feelings etc. as well, but I think most of the groups that I've been in, and if you get in a good group, because let's face it, we probably won't stay very long in groups that we don't feel we're getting something from. And then that also, so if you're happy to type this wee last bit, that would be great. Sheila, really that kind of positive affirmation from other people that you've got value and that you can bring something to the table that people appreciate. I think it makes it a really egalitarian kind of environment where often, and I know tonight we are saying, you know, our full title, professional title, there's not an expectation that you need to do that and that everybody's kind of opinion is valued. There's no real major hierarchy, I don't think. There needs to be some to run groups, but I think there is a very altruistic kind of environment where people do want to actually share. So when you get that, I think you get a kind of bigger symbolic feeling of belonging, that you belong to something bigger than just the individual. And that can really spin on to some amazing projects. That's me.
Okay, thank you very much, Callie. I'm just looking in the yes, so sometimes it does, so just having a quick look through. Yes, positive and negative is what you make of it. And I think Callie was also saying that. I'll just type that in chat. Okay, so I'll, before looking at the chat anymore, I'll finally, for this question, move on to Marley. So I'll now hand over to Marley, but I will be typing in what she's given me.
Ditto, Callie.
Great stuff.
The major emphasis for me is mining the creativity of people, how they can visually manifest their feelings, their values, their ideas, as opposed to creating games or immersive environments. So that's the sort of the distinction I want to make about my role here as an educator. The building capabilities provide the technology for developing this symbolic modeling approach. Also, a web drawing screen that can be in world when it feels like working. I do a workshop called Visions of Self in the gallery, which I referred to earlier. I couldn't afford to have a gallery and workshop space like this out there. And on another sim, I have a house and gardens, which I play with and enjoy inviting people to visit, to have great talks and so on, which also I couldn't afford up there. Also, I like the bartering and collaborative spirit here, which makes it much easier to exchange talents, skills, space, etc., which is a feature that suits my nature, and it's not as easy to do out there. The film project we've been developing will be housed in a special fantasy tree area, making use of building technology. And the whole project, which we've been working on for months, is fully collaborative. We're calling it the Octagon Cinema Grove, which will open to the Second Life public in the fall. So making fantasy areas for programs to happen is also a feature that I love, that I don't want to recreate the kinds of classrooms that I went to when I was a kid. You know, I want to have different kinds of learning environments. I'm especially grateful for the ability to collaborate with people who are geographically distant. Some of them are right here. The ability to reach people all over the world is also a valuable feature, and learning from others' cultures. I also love being able to bring arts lovers together for unique programs using musicians and artists who improvise to each other's creations in real time. The programs I do here have elements of what I've done during my long career out there, but could not be duplicated there in the same way. For the artists and musicians, it's an opportunity to try out their ideas spontaneously, be supported by an enthusiastic audience that can also participate. They're the poet. That doesn't often happen in regular life. Usually when you go to a performance, you're sitting passively in the audience. Maybe passive isn't the, but they are entertained. Every program I do is. I'm also a regular member of the Virtual Worlds Education Roundtable, the Roadside Philosophers, and my own Whole Brain Health Collective on Operation Island, all satisfying my need for exchanging ideas and experiences with colleagues and kindred spirit on a consistent basis. Done.
Thanks very much, Marley. There was one question we had from Gan about, just scrolling back. Apologies.
Yeah, for people institutions.
Yes, I think it was, yes. So it is So I'd say it's relevant for some, but not for others. So perhaps I could just again Heike, have you got an institution that you have to worry about?
No, I'm independent, I'm self-employed, and I don't work, well, I have a lot of clients who are institutions, but other than that, no.
So, and I'll transcribe as you might gather. So, Callie, what about you? I think you're the one.
So, you know, for me, it was, because there was support, but they wanted it to be a silver bullet like most tech in universities. They want every single student to be able to use it, while saying please be innovative and please come up with great ideas and new innovative ways to do things. But if not everybody can do it, we don't want to know. And that just does not work. There is no one strategy, no one platform, no one whatever, unless you just want it to be a plain VLE, which, let's face it, are fairly boring. And don't have one type of tech in it. You have multiple tech solutions within that blended thing, because it's usually also face-to-face. However, and here is the key, and I'll just type this. So, however, here is the key. My motto is proceed until apprehended. So, basically, I just try to do what I want to do until somebody says, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. But usually by that time, I've maybe published something or I've put in an abstract, so then they're like, oh, well, that's okay then. So, that's me.
I think that's a good strategy. I think
exactly.
I think another truism is that it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. I think that's another version of it. And finally, to Marley, and in fact, you are not in an institution. Again, you're self-employed. But do you want to say a few words about that? I'm not sure if Marley. Perhaps she can't hear me.
I think she did answer, actually.
You know, I did write that I've been an external training consultant deliberately for most of my career. So once they buy into what I'm offering, whether it's a university or a corporation or a nonprofit organization, I have carte blanche, and I can do whatever I want. And I do. And you know, one of the things about it is that if one dares to take risks in those settings, the learners never forget it. It's a much different thing from having some expert come in and lecture to you and give you a paper to read. So most of what I do is experiential. I have people discover things by designing and creating experiences that are relevant to what it is they're trying to do in their organization. And I also wrote a manual about this, which, you know, if you go to my website, you'll see it.
And Marley's also not telling you a wee secret, which I'm not going to say, but she's not tied to an institution for a number of reasons.
But L'Oreal was asking, is that because you do art, Marley? Do you think the fact that there's an art element gives you more freedom, that people are more accepting?
Honey, I'm not sure I understand the question. I use arts processes, but I do lots of other kinds of things, depending on who the client is. I mean, if I'm in a corporate environment, I tend to know that I understand what their need is and what it is they're trying to accomplish. And then I design the experiences or whatever I'm going to be doing with them to meet that need. So with some clients that will involve arts processes, with others it won't. It'll involve other kinds of.
Okay, so now I'll move on to our final question that the panelists have prepared for us, and I'll type that into text chat. Just that. Let's see. Move on to question 3.
I think our timing's going to be perfect, Sheila.
Absolutely. Well, we're perfect. No, we shouldn't say that. So, hopefully, it could all go wrong in the last 15 minutes, so perhaps I better not say anything. So, we move on to question 3, and again, I will start by asking Heike to address this question of what project or teaching would you do in a virtual world if you had vast resources? So you had money, time to do whatever you liked. What kind of thing would you do?
I love that question very much. Thank you so much for asking it. And I hope that the audience will also get a chance to answer that question at the end, also for themselves, because it is a wonderful question. I really do appreciate this. So what would I like to have if I had tons of money? Well, I would like to have... sorry, I have to look at my own speakeasy right now. If I had a lot of money, I would like to ask Google to support it, or if it doesn't have to be money, it can be just Google. I would like to have a Google avatar. I would like a Google avatar that could walk Google Street View and could use the camera controls to see Google Earth. And I would like that avatar to be able to speak to others whom they meet in the streets, in a pub, in a museum. I would like to be able to enter a shop at Fifth Avenue in New York and buy some clothes or some sneakers or some great fashion. And I would like to be able to enter an office building in Tokyo to conduct a business meeting. I'd like to teleport to Italy to attend an Italian class by an Italian teacher in Florence, who takes me on a tour through town. I would also like Google to create a parallel universe, a parallel Earth, one which we can build on, recreate the cities to become beautiful places. We would invite city planners to recreate some of the cities all over again, this time without historic restrictions. That would be my wish. And so I'm asking the audience also, what would this world be like if we were able to plan it as our imagination says? That's it for me.
Thank you, Kat. That's a wonderful thing to start with. I'm just letting my imagination roam, and also I will hand over to Callie if you'd like to give your vision of what you would do if you had all these unlimited resources.
Callie, we're not hearing you.
Oops, classic mistake, there we go again. Sorry, so anyway, yeah, so I would probably do several. I'd repeat the simulation problem-based learning one that I did. I would do research around the out-of-world and in-world restorative health benefits of virtual nature, and I hope to put in a proposal for that soon. I've got some information and data from my PhD around that. And I would also do something around young people's health literacy, but I'd like to create that with them so that it's almost co-created and they create it so that they can then use it within their school or spread it to other areas, etc. So that's kind of a couple of ideas that I would like to do, but you know, there is probably hundreds if I had all the time on the world. So I take it you all heard that.
So thank you, Callie. And I'll finally move on now to Marley for your response to what you'd do if you had vast resources.
Okay. So let me preface this by saying that the most precious resource is time. And unfortunately, that's something there's just too little of for most people. My students or learners have to be sought out, unlike those working in institutions where educators have a built-in learning population. So I would hire someone whose full-time job it was to scour Second Life and the web to find matches for the types of programs and trainings we offer, combining arts processes with psychology and education, to advertise my services all over Second Life and outside through social media and by contacting kindred spirits through their websites, possibly visiting art centers and universities to entice people to try out this virtual world environment. I already have a great team consisting of a program manager, a tech manager, and a design manager who have spent years, months, and/or hours in collaboration with me, developing programs, processes, and products. But they have other fish to fry in their regular lives. So for me, vast resources would mean having additional people with the requisite skills and the time to devote to developing these programs for optimum accessibility and impact. My bonds to my current helpers are deep and abiding, so this would be an addition, which would also make their jobs easier. I would also train a team of educators, social workers, artists, and trainers to focus on orienting elders Second Life in councils on aging, websites across the U.S., and the equivalent in other places, with the purpose of eradicating isolation and promoting lifelong learning and creative expression and experimentation. I would want to support the idea of creative elders as living treasures. It's much more prevalent in other cultures like Japan, but not so much in the U.S., worships youth, although there have been some hopeful signs in recent years. I would also create a group of ongoing learners consisting of educators, coaches, and other people, professionals, interested in experiencing a mixture of personal and professional development using my resources as a Gestalt therapist, multi-artist, and organization development trainer and consultant. I would set it up so that each person was able to make use of his or her own expertise as a facilitator over time. We would support each other in experimenting with the processes we practiced ourselves and come back together on a regular basis to report our experiences and learn from each other. I'm already planning to create a training program for a small group interested in learning how to use SIMMOTs in their arenas. So, I have to say, sort of in parentheses, the financial resources would be to help people who really wanted to do this kind of work and exploration have additional income so that they didn't have to be either living from hand to mouth or scrambling around for other sources of income. Theoretically, I could do all this without vast resources, but finding the people takes time and is made difficult by missing features in the Second Life search engine. So maybe I'd want to start there by having technical wizards create a matrix of cross-referenced searching. Considering how vast the population of Second Life is, I'm willing to bet there are all sorts of people who would want to participate in our programs if only they could find us or we could find them. I value collaborations with people like Liz and Val Librarian as we develop programs and processes that expand the potentials of this world for lifelong learners, educators, and for regular folk. I must confess that I am not all that interested in staying ahead of the technology. I've already lived a long life filled with discoveries based on human potential, and at this point, I'm much more interested in the exploration of creative process with whoever shows up here, learning about myself and others in different cultures, and practicing arts process. Second Life is a great playground for that. I have no desire to go where there are not already populations of eager learners wanting to learn, share, and collaborate. I rest my case.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's all the questions that we had for the panel. There's 5 minutes left. Yes, so if we could just thank the panelists. I'm just scrolling back at the moment. Abnormal was raising the issue about the whole business model of Second Life, which I suppose is something that we're all concerned about, those of us that want Second Life to continue. And I think
I've heard that Second Life has been dying since the day and hour that I came in.
Yes, and it hasn't died yet. But it could always, I mean, it could happen, it could also happen at any moment.
Absolutely.
Sheila, can I ask this question to the audience as well? Question, what would you do if you had tons of money? What would you, Second Life, would you stay here? What would you build? What would you do?
Okay, so I'll stand up to indicate that we've come to the hour, and so I'll draw this panel to a close, though if people want to stay around and chat, that's fine, but it's also fine at this point to leave. So I'd like once more to thank our panelists and thank Maggie for creating the Virtual World and her colleagues for creating the Virtual World MOOC and providing this crossover opportunity. It's been great to see so many people here, and I hope that you've enjoyed visiting the Virtual Worlds Education Roundtable and will come along to some of our very friendly meetings. There's it's every Thursday, so it's every week. You don't have to try too hard to remember when it is. So I'll just shut my voice off and go into text chat. So thank you, Heike, thank you, Callie, and thank you, Marley, for your gracious contributions.